58 years later, Anson Mount fixed Star Trek's original Captain Pike problem in only 2 seasons of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. Anson Mount has turned Captain Christopher Pike into one of Star Trek's most beloved captains, repairing any problems with Jeffrey Hunter's original Captain Pike. When Gene Roddenberry was conceptualizing Star Trek, the original series, the story revolved around Captain Pike and his Enterprise crew. Finding an actor to portray Pike was one of Roddenberry's most difficult tasks, but Jeffrey Hunter eventually landed the role. However, after NBC rejected the show's first pilot, The Cage, Jeffrey Hunter left Star Trek's production. Star Trek fans first met Pike in TOS Season 1, Episodes 11 and 12, The Menagerie, after the former Enterprise captain had suffered his devastating accident. Captain Pike then became a footnote in Star Trek history, until Star Trek Discovery Season 2 reintroduced Anson Mount as a new and improved Christopher Pike. Fans took an instant liking to Mount's portrayal of Pike, which eventually convinced Paramount to give him his own series, Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. Strange New Worlds has become an ensemble show that showcases the entire Enterprise crew, but Captain Pike has already joined the ranks of Trek's best captains. Anson Mount fixed Star Trek's problem with Jeffrey Hunter's Captain Pike. After a screening of The Cage, NBC famously rejected the Star Trek pilot, claiming that it was too cerebral for audiences of the time. The studio was unhappy with many of the casting choices, finding Jeffrey Hunter's take on Captain Pike to be overly serious. When NBC made the unprecedented decision to order a second pilot, Hunter left the production, leaving Roddenberry and his team to find another captain. Still, Captain Pike became a part of Star Trek canon, giving modern Trek the chance to further develop the character. Anson Mount's Captain Pike retains Hunter's thoughtfulness, but is less temperamental and more personable. The Pike of Strange New Worlds treats his crew like family, hosting dinners in his personal quarters, something it's hard to imagine Hunter's Pike doing. Anson Mount's Pike has the same attractive leading man qualities as Hunter, but is more charismatic and likable. Strange New Worlds has provided more insight into Pike, and Mount has truly made the role his own, bringing a compelling and dynamic energy to the character. Captain Pike is a Star Trek throwback, who is also modern. Captain Pike feels like a classic Star Trek captain in many ways, but he's far more sentimental than previous Star Trek captains were allowed to be. Captain James T. Kirk William Shatner and Captain Jean-Luc Picard Patrick Stewart may have had very different command styles, but they both devoted themselves to their careers at the expense of personal relationships. Picard, in particular, always kept himself at a distance from his crew. Pike, on the other hand, remains open, treating his crew members like equals and inviting them to challenge him with their own ideas. Captain Pike is romantic in every sense of the word. He has all the positive attributes of a classic male hero without the arrogance and remoteness often associated with those kinds of characters. Perhaps most importantly, Pike is a good man, which feels like a breath of fresh air in a television landscape full of bitter anti-heroes. Even knowing his eventual fate, Pike remains a beacon of hope, and his dynamic with his crew makes Star Trek: Strange New Worlds one of the franchise's most enjoyable shows. When Star Trek first aired in 1966, it changed the landscape of science fiction television. But for all of its success, one of its original characters, Captain Christopher Pike, was a tragic casualty of circumstance, underused and overshadowed by Captain James T. Kirk. Pike's character, portrayed by Jeffrey Hunter in the unaired pilot The Cage, was an enigmatic and thoughtful leader. However, after the pilot was rejected, Pike was replaced by Kirk, and the character faded into the background of Star Trek lore. Fast forward 58 years, and Anson Mount's portrayal of Pike in Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek: Strange New Worlds has not only revived the character, but also resolved the lingering issues that plagued Pike for decades. The original Captain Pike was a man of quiet strength, grappling with the weight of command, questioning his purpose, and struggling with the moral dilemmas that came with his position. However, the constraints of the original series format didn't allow him the depth and complexity that a modern showrunner might give him. The character's limited screen time outside the pilot and a brief appearance in The Menagerie, a 2-part episode of Star Trek, the original series, didn't allow Pike to reach his full potential. Fans longed for more of Pike, but the era of television did not offer the same character development opportunities that later shows would. The advent of Star Trek Discovery in 2017, while initially focusing on the adventures of the USS Discovery under Captain Gabriel Lorca, brought a surprising resurgence of Pike. Anson Mount stepped into the role of Captain Pike in Season 2, and his version of the character was a breath of fresh air. While still a commander of the USS Enterprise, Mount's Pike was far more nuanced and engaging than the brief glimpses fans had seen in the original series. Mount's Pike had charisma and gravitas, as well as the vulnerability that makes him a compelling leader. This was a stark contrast to the more stoic, distant Pike that appeared in the cage. Whereas the original Pike was a more traditional captain by the book, almost distant and weighed down by his duties, Mount's Pike, while still deeply principled, is a man with more visible emotion and a moral compass that occasionally strays into ambiguity. Anson Mount brought a dynamic performance that showed the character's personal dilemmas, creating a captain who felt real. He was not just an idealized leader, but a man who occasionally questioned his choices, his responsibilities, and the toll it took on him. What's particularly compelling about Anson Mount's take on Captain Pike is how he addressed the problem of the character's backstory. In Discovery, Pike is revealed to have a tragic future one in which he will be severely injured in a catastrophic accident that leaves him physically and mentally compromised. This fatalistic vision was hinted at in the Menagerie, where Pike's fate is shown to be sealed, but Mount's performance imbues the character with a sense of agency and determination that allows the audience to fully understand the gravity of his journey. Instead of playing the character as someone resigned to his fate, Mount's Pike is aware of what's to come, but strives to live fully in the present, embodying both the wisdom and vulnerability of a man who knows his time is limited. This modern take on Pike's future, which mirrors the tragic, unchangeable events of his life, sets him apart from many other Star Trek captains who, at the time of their stories, have little to no foreknowledge of the specific events that will define their lives. Pike's journey becomes not just about leading the Enterprise, but about living with the knowledge of what's to come and making each moment count. In that sense, Mount's portrayal of Pike is imbued with a sense of quiet heroism that elevates the character beyond the simple archetype of a starship commander. Strange New Worlds, which follows Pike as the captain of the Enterprise before the events of the original series, builds on this deepening of the character. Here, Pike's leadership is a reflection of his willingness to embrace the future's uncertainty while making decisions based on compassion, wisdom, and courage. It is in Strange New Worlds that we see Pike truly come into his own as a character, one who embodies all the traits fans loved in Star Trek's other captains, such as Kirk's charisma and Picard's intellect, but who also has the burden of his impending fate hanging over him like a shadow. Anson Mount's portrayal is so effective because it does not shy away from Pike's emotional complexity. He is a captain who is not just a leader, but also a man with deep concerns about the ethics of command, personal sacrifice, and the implications of the choices he makes for his crew. His relationship with the members of his crew, especially with Spock, who is far more emotionally reserved than Pike, creates a rich tapestry of growth, respect, and camaraderie. Unlike Kirk's confident swagger or Picard's intellectual rigor, Pike's leadership feels grounded in a sense of moral duty and a